Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending on which time you are watching this video. My name is Professor Ruben Ramos, and this is another asynchronous class on superhero comic books in nowadays society. On this class, we are going to start the contents on Chapter 5, Living in Line. Can emotions be made visible? Is this anger, joy, serenity, tension, intimacy, madness, pride, anxiety, can one sense speak for all five? Loud, rank, cold, quiet, sour, warm. The idea that a picture can evoke an emotional or sensual response in the viewer is vital to the art of comics. And I'll remember that on our next synchronous class, I'll restart with this pictures we've just seen to ask you if you could feel that feeling on each and every one of them. In chapters 3 and 4, we investigated the various ways time and motion could be portrayed, both between panels through closure and within a single panel or image. The invisible world of senses and emotions can also be portrayed by either between or within panels. We've touched upon the former category in chapter 3, but what about the later? How can a single image represent the senses and emotions, and how does this idea apply to comics? Once again, we can turn to the world of fine arts for some ideas. Here you will have the example of famous Edward Monk's The Scream. And I believe this is a 19 or earlier, no, late 19th century. This is a very famous painting, and it has been reproduced in several ways, including pop culture. I've seen characters such as Homer Simpson doing this, and others as famous as. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, some kind of scary was going on. No sooner had the Impressionists finally convinced their peers that the world they saw was the world as it is truly seen. Then another unseen world began to make itself visible. In the works of Edvard Munch and Vincent van Gogh, the objective study of light, so prized by the Impressionist mainstream, was being abandoned in favor of a new, frighteningly subjective approach. Expressionism, as it came to be called, didn't start as a scientific art, but rather as an honest expression of the internal turmoil these artists just could not repress. The science of it wasn't far behind, though. As the new century got underway, cooler heads such as Vasily Kandinsky took great interest in the power of line, shape, and color to suggest the inner state of the artist and to provoke the five senses. Angry reds, placid blues, anxious textures, loud shapes, quiet lines, cold greens. These were strange ideas in 1912. Kandinsky and his peers were searching for an art that might somehow unite the senses, and in doing so, unite the different art forms which appealed to those different senses. We call this idea synesthetics. Not surprising, then, that similar ideas were expressed by creators in other fields, such as Richard Wagner and the French poet Baudelaire. Quote, art does not reproduce the visible, rather it makes visible. End of quote. Paul Klee, painter, teacher, cartoonist. Art historians have generally held that while painters, musicians, and poets have grappled with such ideas, practitioners of the low art of comics have remained blissfully ignorant of them. But have they? In surveying a century of comics, one finds creators like the Underground's Rory Hayes, who are blatantly expressionistic, but such artists are few and far between. More have worked in a fairly straightforward style, iconic maybe, but not filled with the expressive lines of a Monk or the colors of a Van Gogh. Can we say, therefore, that one of these two creators is expressing mood and emotion and the other is not? Or does the difference lie in what is being expressed? Here we have a sequence with help, and below, I've been feeling kind of depressed all week. If these lines are expressive of fear, anxiety, and madness, then couldn't these lines be said to portray calm, reason, and introspection? In truth, don't all lines carry with them an expressive potential? By direction alone, a line may go from passive and timeless to proud and strong, to dynamic and changing. But its shape, it can be unwelcoming and severe, or warm and gentle, or rational and conservative. By its character, it may seem savage and deadly, or weak and unstable, or honest and direct. The most bland, expressionless lines on earth can help but characterize their subject in some way. And while few comic artists may consider themselves expressionists, that doesn't mean that they can't tell one line from another. Here are some examples. In Dick Tracy, for example, Chester Gould used bold lines, obtuse angles, and heavy blacks to suggest the mood of a green, deadly world of adults. And this is very true, including the movie Dick Tracy. It was an early 90s movie, I believe, with Madonna, Warren Beatty as Dick Tracy, and and Al Pacino as coffee pie, something like that. So this is very well represented both in the movie, but heavily on the comics. I'm sorry. While the gentle curves and open lines of Karl Barks' Uncle Scrooge convey a feeling of whimsy, youth, and innocence. And we have a sense of this not only in the comics but in the animated cartoons as well. Anybody who's familiar with DuckTales knows what I'm talking about. In our in R. Crumb's world, the curves of innocence are betrayed by the neurotic quill lines of modern adulthood and left painfully out of place. While in Christine Creator's art, the curves of childhood and the mad lines of a monk create a crazy toddler look. In the mid 60s, when the average Marvel reader was pre adolescent, popular inkers used dynamic but friendly lines a la Kirby or Sinnott. But when Marvel's reader base grew into the anxieties of adolescence, the hostile, jagged lines of Rob Liefeld struck a more responsive chord. For decades of color comic books, the signature styles of individual artists like Nick Cardy have infused personal expression into every story. While Jules Pfeiffer's uneven lines did battle with themselves in a pantomime of the inner struggles of modern life. In Jose Munoz's work, dense puddles of ink and fraying line work combine to evoke a world of depravity and morbid decay, while Just Swarty's crisp, elegant lines and jazzy designs speak of cool sophistication and irony. In Art Spiegelman's Prisoner of the Hell Planet, deliberately expressionistic lines depict a true life horror story. And in Will Eisner's modern work, a full range of line styles capture a full range of moods and emotion. I am not gonna go further here because I wanna have your impressions and opinions both on the beginning of the chapter with the lines and on each of the panels that we've studied here in page 126. If you felt the same as Scott McCloud was trying to attempt, or if you feel any differently from what he was saying. So we will close up here, and I'll see you on this Friday. Please watch this class and be prepared to answer these questions either on chat or on microphone. Thank you so much. See ya. Bye bye.